Herzberg, I think it's proper to say, would have found the initial starting point at the University of Saskatchewan pretty bare bones. He had an enormous influence in terms of the quality of the research that was being done in physics and molecular spectroscopy in particular. Herzberg, over the course of his time here, worked very hard, not only in establishing a research laboratory, but he actually worked very hard at writing these books, which became essentially the Bible of the field. Herzberg's books on spectroscopy really constituted what you had to know if you really wanted to be at the leading edge of the field. And I use them all the time. I still use them, even though they were published in the 1940s, 50s, and into the 60s and 70s. That was really the beginning, I think, of a really first-class reputation in physics. He was very quiet, very unassuming. I met him for the longest period of time while he was here, 1983, 84. He was just a nice fellow, wasn't in any way overly proud of what he'd done, and this was, of course, after he'd won the Nobel Prize, so he had every right to be boastful, but he wasn't. He was a nice person. It's interesting, Herzberg's influence even on the material that I studied when I was a graduate student here. I was doing physical chemistry in an area called photochemistry, in which we're looking at the chemical effects of the absorption of light by molecules. And I took a graduate class in physics in spectroscopy. Now, of course, spectroscopy is Herzberg's major area of contribution. And I took this course, this graduate course in physics, from a faculty member, Valence Jones is his name, who I think probably was at the University of Saskatchewan simply because Herzberg had established a presence in the area of spectroscopy when he was here from 1935 to 1945. And of course, I took this course, 20 years after Herzberg had departed, but the idea that somehow molecular spectroscopy, that's Herzberg's area, was important, continued on, and so I ended up taking this course in molecular spectroscopy in physics, and at the time I thought, man, this is just too detailed for me. I'm never going to use this. Then, when I went on my postdoctoral fellowship at the University of California in Riverside, we were studying a species which was called singlet oxygen, which is O2, but in an excited state. And I knew everything about it because I'd studied it already as a graduate student in this physics spectroscopy course. So it gave me an enormous advantage. I probably knew more about that molecule in sort of physics detail than anybody else in the research group, even though I had just arrived. So that's Herzberg's influence in a very indirect, but nevertheless, I think, quite real way.